Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Darrell Owens, and this is another edition of One on One here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network and on Bowie Television, airing on the amazing Bowie Television. We're very excited to be with you here on this day after Christmas. So it's a little bit unique. We were trying to figure out how we were going to do this, with games happening yesterday, but we'll talk a little bit about those games, and of course. We'll give you the power rankings heading technically into those games. So you'll be like, well, wait a minute, this team lost. Remember, this is for next week. This is for this past week that just went by. So we'll kind of get into all that. But with all that being said, we got a lot to get into. 101, episode 154, as we break down the power rankings for week 17 of the NFL season. Tonight, we got Seahawks and Bears. Seahawks trying to stay alive in the playoff picture, and the Bears are just trying to win a football game again. They've lost 9 straight games. Well, with that being said, 101 starts now.
One. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to one-on-one at Legacy Maker Sports Network.
All right, we are here, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 154 here of 101 here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network, and of course, airing on the amazing Bowie Television. We come to you the day after Christmas, but we have to talk. It's just a lot to talk about as we get a little bit closer and closer to the playoffs, which are creeping right around the corner. So this is something that you got to be excited about if you're an NFL fan. College football is actually doing some really good things right now with their college playoff. Didn't probably go the way a lot of teams would like in that first week, but that's okay. That is okay. Well, let's get into what we got going on today. We got the Seahawks and the Bears tonight. Seahawks need to win, have to win to stay alive. So they don't want to be eliminated out of the playoffs. They still may have a slight chance depending on how other things fall, but they need to win tonight. They cannot afford to lose to the Bears. The Bears just want to win again. I mean, they have not won a game since the Hail Mary. I was at that game, and they haven't won one since. So can they fix that? Can they change it? Can they try to end the season on a high note? I don't know. We'll see. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get this bad boy started. Let's get the power rankings going, and let's start off with the bottom. All right, starting at the bottom this week, lonely at the bottom. The team that has, I believe they have clinched the number one spot. If not, they pretty much got it in hand right now. Well, there's still 2 weeks left, so who knows? I mean, things could change, but they're in the driver's seat to get the number one pick in the draft and get their choice of Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Like, those are the options right there. 2 pretty solid options. You get Shedeur Sanders, that changes a lot. You're going to bring a lot of publicity to New York, and then on top of that, there's some baggage that's come with it, but the jersey sales will be through the roof if you're a Giants fan, and it brings up a lot of hope. Now, Cam Ward's going to bring that same vision, but probably a lot less press. So that's something that you got to think about as a Giant, which quarterback will be able to handle that New York media, because that's a big deal. But with that being said, the Giants at the bottom, very bottom, 32, after losing to the Falcons 34-7. They were never really in this game, and it was bad. It was bad all the way through, and they just couldn't stop Atlanta. Atlanta looked good. Michael Penix Jr. getting his first start as the Atlanta Falcons quarterback after all the stuff that went on with him this past week with him and Kirk Cousins, trying to figure out what the world's going on there. And then Kirk Cousins, we went from starting to being benched to he's going to get cut or traded by March the 10th or whenever the beginning of the league year. So a lot going on there. But Giants get beat up. They're at 32 for a reason. They're clearly the worst team in football. But number 31 is right there with them, and that's the Vegas Raiders. The Raiders did win this week, which is nice. Congratulations to the Raiders, beating the Jaguars 19-14. Now, this is a game where a lot of people were like, if you're the Raiders, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, you put yourself in a position to win a game. Why would you do that? Why would you try to win a game? I mean, you're trying to get this pick. That's for a lot of people. But Coach Antonio Pierce, that's not in his nature. He said, hey, look, we're out here to win football games. We're not worried about draft picks or anything like. We're out there to win football games. But this is the first Raider victory since September. The Raiders haven't won a game since September. That's a long time. A very, very, very long time. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to calculate real quick. So 12 straight losses. They're right up there in the territory before they got that win. 11 to 12 straight losses. Just a rough deal for the Raiders. But they get a win. That's the most important thing. They got to win, and they're back on the right thing. So, but it's still, you lose this game to Jacksonville, or you beat Jacksonville. So now you have the advantage over Jacksonville, which I believe should put Jacksonville at the 2 spot. Right there with Tennessee. So they're all battling for this. Even the Browns are in this mix. So a lot of things could change here in the last couple of weeks, but we'll see. At number 30, the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee had a nice battle with the Colts, but the Colts just were better. And Jonathan Taylor goes cuckoo-nutty, 218 yards, 29 carries, 3 touchdowns. He carried the Colts to the win and to keep the Colts playoff hopes alive. So, but the Titans they're another team that's like, what are you doing here? I guess we'll find out when the offseason hits. At 29, the Browns. Browns right there with them. A team where you're just trying to figure out what the world is going on. The Browns just never really showed up against the Bengals, and they had, Darian Thompson Robinson, I believe, at QB DTR instead of Jameis Wilson. Winston obviously gets a lot of the fanfare, but they thought they needed to go a different direction. That's going to be another situation where what are the Browns going to do next year? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Do you trade Deshaun Watson? Do you bring in Kirk Cousins? There's a lot there because him and Stefanski have history together. There's a lot going on there. What that situation will look like. Browns are at 29. At 28, the Jacksonville Jaguars, another situation where they know the quarterback situation for the extent, but who's going to be coaching that team next year? That's a whole nother monster for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They do lose a tough one to the Raiders when they went back and forth from Mac Jones and they're trying to get a dub for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but it wasn't enough. But we'll see what Jacksonville does. At 27, out of probably the 3-12 teams, a team that has a little bit more hope than the rest, and that's the New England Patriots. Even though New England doesn't, have enough talent, they've played really competitive this year and have been in some games, just haven't been able to pull it off. They just didn't have enough talent. Drake May looks like he's going to be their guy. Like I said, looks like he's going to be their guy. We'll see how that all kind of pans out, but they just need more pieces around them. That's it. So Patriots at 27. At 26, another team that was looking at the bottom and now kind of improving a little bit, competing a little bit more, beating the number 21 team, the Cardinals, on this power ranking. And you say, well, the Panthers should be high. No, the Cardinals have had a better season. They got snuck. But the Panthers have played really good football the last couple of weeks. They've been in the mix. They lost, I think, week before last. It was a little bit rough, but they've competed with the likes of the Chiefs. They've competed with the likes of what's the other team that was really good at the beginning? I mean, they've been battling with teams, but teams that are at the top of the mountain. So you can't just sit there and be like, oh, they're not. No, you can't. They're fighting. They almost beat the Bucs in overtime matchup. Bryce Young is playing better. So I like what I'm seeing there from the Panthers. They're at 26. At 25, the Chicago Bears, total dumpster fire. They lose to the Lions 34-17. And I think they're just ready for the offseason, ready to try to refigure this thing out and see what they can get done. Caleb Williams just hasn't looked the way people would want him to look. A lot of people say he's holding on the ball too long, which if you watch the games, that's exactly what it looks like, holding on the ball too long. But not having a phenomenal offensive line, or at least a good offensive line, has helped that situation or has put him in that situation. He's got the pieces at receiver. He's got a solid running back, but the offensive line is killing him right now. And a good defense. You fix that, figure out the head coaching position, who knows? Bears at 25. At 24, the New York Jets actually won a game this week. Congratulations to Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams getting a win there for the Jets. That's another dumpster fire. Nobody knows where the Jets will be next year. Aaron Rodgers starting to talk like he don't think he's going to be there, which means if they waive him, he's a free agent. Whew, Aaron Rodgers a free agent? That's still interesting. Even at 41, there's some teams that will take a shot. So that'll be interesting. Does he go to San Francisco? Well, they probably won't with Purdy there, but it's just that's going to be an interesting situation. Now, next, the Saints. We have the Saints. Saints have looked terrible. They started to fight back, and then Carr got re-injured, and they haven't been the same since. They lost to the Packers 34-0. The only shutout this year in the NFL belongs to the Packers after beating the Saints at home. Saints just look bad, y'all. They're another team that were in that mix for our starting quarterback, and don't be surprised if they make that move in the offseason. Even with Derek Carr, they may bring him back because of the contract situation, but we'll see. At 22, the San Francisco 49ers. Injuries just got them all year long. No healthy McCaffrey is, the running back situation has been really rough because every time they get one, they get banged up. My man Patrick Taylor used to be a former Packer. He was starting at one point. I think he started this past week, a week before last. It's just injuries. Injuries caught San Francisco. But this happens every couple of years, San Francisco fans, so don't be weary. They'll be back next year, and they'll be back stronger. So watch out for San Francisco. They're at 22. At 21, and last here on the bottom, the Arizona Cardinals. Very disappointing loss to the Panthers. Very disappointing loss. You're in the playoff match, in the hunt to win the division, and then that happens. And I believe now they have been eliminated from the playoffs. So tough deal for a team that probably didn't think, or a lot of people didn't think they would be in that position. So here it is, the bottom. Giants, Raiders, Titans, Browns, Jaguars, Patriots, Panthers, Bears, Jets, Saints, San Francisco 49ers, and last but not least, the Arizona Cardinals. So there it is, your bottom. Your bottom is looking pretty interesting as we continue to go along. And now the outside looking in is heavy with teams still in the playoff mix. Let's head to the outside looking in. Outside looking in at number 20, the Indianapolis Colts. Big win over the Titans, 38-30. We talked about Jonathan Taylor having that big game, 3 touchdowns. He was just running all over the field and just hurting that Titans team all the way through. It was a really rough go for Tennessee. The Colts are at number 20. At number 19, the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas has played good football over the last couple of weeks. The only problem is the way their certain part of the season have knocked them out of the playoff. They cannot make the playoffs, but due to record and all that stuff. But they really have played hard, And Cooper Rush and the squad have played decent football. They beat the number 15 team on here, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think it was kind of a surprise. Tampa Bay just looked off. But Dallas has played really good football, and they're not going to be a team that you can just look past. The Eagles better be careful because Dallas will play them hard this week. Watch out for that. Dallas is still playing for some pride. They're at 19. At 18, the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are somehow still in the mix. They're with the Colts and the Bengals, still fighting for that last spot. They need some things to go their way, but right now the Chargers and the Broncos kind of have that spot solidified. They got like 2 games leads, and I think wins this week will get them both into the playoffs. So their hopes are dwindling for the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Bengals, but we'll see how that goes. The Dolphins, they beat the San Francisco 49ers 29-17, but they're still fighting, and they're still fighting strong. Just imagine if Tua was healthy all year. We're talking a different Miami team. They're at 18. At 17, the Cincinnati Bengals. Probably another, a disappointment. 7-8 on the year, and a team that is fighting for their playoff lives. When you see a guy like Joe Burrow having an MVP season and Jamar Chase and him have been on point all year long. And now you're seeing them kind of just, carrying that team. And then T. Higgins is playing well. Chase Brown has come in and done some really good things, but they just haven't been able to win games. So they're at 17, still fighting. At 16, the Seattle Seahawks. They play tonight against the Bears. They have to win to keep things going. I know that you lose, they still got a chance, I believe, but no, you need to win tonight. Cannot let the Bears beat you and in that game, losing streak. Seattle has lost to back-to-back NFC North opponents, losing to the Packers on your boy's sexiest day of the year on December 15th, and then this past week losing to the Vikings. So now they got the Bears. Can they beat the Bears? We shall see. At 15, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, another team kind of fighting for their playoff lives here. They still got a chance to win that division, but Atlanta technically has a 2-game lead over them, even though they have the same record. Atlanta, the 14 team in the power rankings, has a 2-game lead because they beat the Buccaneers twice this year. So they have that advantage sitting over top of them, but things still can change. Things can flip-flop here throughout the weeks. So we'll see who will win the NFC South. Will it be Tampa Bay or will it be Atlanta? Heading to number 13, the Denver Broncos, 9-6 on the season. They're battling with their counterpart, the San Diego Chargers, LA Chargers, which was a really good game last Thursday night. 34-27, Chargers winning that one and giving the Chargers a little bit of a boost, putting them into the 6th seed right now in the AFC, and the Broncos currently the 7th seed. So those two teams, trying to finish off the season the right way to see what, they can do. It will be interesting. It will be interesting to see how those two kind of play things out to finish the rest of the season. Now, at 11, the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have played, decent football. I mean, they had a gritty win against the Jets 19-9. But sometimes it's not going to be pretty. You just got to find ways to win it. And that's what they did. They were able to do it there in week 16. So here it is. The outside looking in. Colts, Cowboys, Dolphins, Bengals, Seahawks, Buccaneers, Falcons, Broncos, Chargers, and the LA Rams. All right. So there's the outside looking in. We're getting closer here. Who is in the top 10? Will it be the same from last week? Do we still have the same number one? Pretty safe to say. We'll see. Let's get into the top 10. All right. Hit the top 10. At number 10. Now, here's a disclaimer. 4 of the teams in this top 10 played last night or yesterday afternoon. Now, with that being said as well, this power ranking, I have to give this disclaimer for those who are watching visually. Physically, that's not even a word. Maybe I should use it for one. But for those who are watching, this happened, or when we are airing this is a day after. But these two teams, so these numbers are different. So the Texans, the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Chiefs all had different records now. And so it won't affect this week's power ranking, but it will affect next week's power ranking. So we'll get into all that. But anyway, at number 10, the Houston Texans. They're technically 9-7 on the season. Heading into this week, they were 9-6 before they took a shellacking yesterday to the Ravens, 31-2. They beat them 31-2. Just gotta say, they almost had a second shutout. The Ravens almost pull that off, but it was a dominating performance by Lamar Jackson. They just look good up and down. They did their thing, and this is back-to-back losses for the Texans. They lost to the Chiefs last week on Saturday, or lost on Saturday 27-19, and they lose this game yesterday against the Ravens. So just a tough go. But they're in the playoffs. They just got to try to clean it up. At number 9, a team if they can win in the next 2 weeks, they're in. The Washington Commanders are 10-5. They had a really good battle against the Eagles, being able to pull that off and beating the Eagles. Even though Jalen Hurts went down, Washington had 5 turnovers in that game, but they did not let that deter them. They went in there, did what they needed to do, got to win. And now Washington is just one win away from punching the ticket into the playoffs for the first time since 2020. Now, we'll see if they can make that happen. At number 8. Oh, and before we move there, Jaden Daniels, amazing day. 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They were killing it. At number 8, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 10-5 on this, but now they are 10-6. They did lose to the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday, 29-10. Another one of those Christmas games that were blowouts. And I know, even though people love the NFL so much, I'm pretty sure they were hoping they weren't blowouts, but they were. The Steelers are now technically 10-6, but heading into this, they were 10-5. We had them at number 8. At number 7, now 11-5, the Baltimore Ravens, and leading the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens right now at 11-5. Says 10-5 on here. I know I keep over explaining, but for those visually, heading into this week that just passed, but the Ravens are starting to click now. Can they keep it all together? Can they keep things going? Can they keep Henry going? Can Lamar keep playing great? It's going to be key. The biggest thing for them this year is do not revert like you did last year. Do not go back to something that you weren't. So just see if they can hold on and maybe make that trip to the Super Bowl this year. At number 6, the Green Bay Packers. Big win over the Saints, 34-0, clinching a playoff spot. But there's something about this team that I'm still trying to see if they are going to be tough enough to beat the bigger opponents. They've pretty much beat all the mediocre teams or the bad teams or those middle of the road teams and a couple good teams here and there. But can they beat the big 3? Can you beat the Vikings? Can you beat the Bills? Can you beat the Eagles? These are all teams that have beat them. Down the road, maybe the Bills or the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Who knows? Can those things happen? They have enough talent to do it, but will they be able to do it? Packers are at 6. At 5, the Philadelphia Eagles coming back off of that loss to the Commanders. Their first loss, I believe, in 11 games. They were cruising before that loss, and then losing Jalen Hurts right now. That's probably the more important thing. They just want to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. We may see Kenny Pickett get the start this week, but we'll see. At number 4, the Minnesota Vikings, 13-2, probably the most disrespected team in the NFL. They're 13-2 and maybe a 5 seed. May have to hit the road, unless they can catch up with the Lions and win the division, which is still a possibility. The Vikings have a shot at the 1 seed. Win this week against the Packers, or have the Lions lose, they still have a chance to win that division. There's still a shot. We'll see what happens with the next 2 weeks coming up. At number 3, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills doing their thing, still looking good with a 24-21 victory over the Patriots. But this game was way closer than it needed to be if you're a Bills fan. But it is a division rival. 14-0 lead for the Patriots before the Bills had to come back and win the game or do whatever they needed to do to win the game. End up winning that one 24-21. The Bills are at number 3. At number 2, the Detroit Lions at 34-17 victory over the Bears. Easy peasy. They're sitting at number 2. And at number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs, 15-1 now after yesterday's win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. A nice win on the road for Kansas City. And shout out to Travis Kelce for hitting the 1,000 reception club and passing Tony Gonzalez, I believe, for touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So shout out to them in the process. So here it is, top 10. Texans, Commanders, Steelers, Ravens, Packers, Eagles, Vikings, Bills, Lions, and the Kansas City Chiefs sit at number 1 for another week. All right, that's it. Top 10 is locked and loaded. The Power Rankings are locked and loaded for another week. And now let's go ahead and finish this thing up, ladies and gentlemen, with the finale. All right, so with the finale, let's go ahead and get into our Kings of the Gridiron for week number 16. First, Jonathan Taylor, 29 carries, 218 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 38-30 victory over Tennessee. Looking like the Jonathan Taylor that we grew to love a couple of years ago. He's had a really solid year, but it's good to see him kind of click back and have a throwback game from a couple of years ago. And our defensive king of the gridiron, Caden Ellis, 7 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble in that 34-7 victory over the New York Football Giants. Heading to our MVP race, pretty much the same. Allen right now, the number 1 in my book. Jared Goff is sitting there right behind him, along with Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, and Saquon Barkley. It's a tough battle between these 5. I think Allen, Goff, and Jackson right now, that's where I think the money is on, even though Barkley's having the year that he is having. So those are my top 5 MVPs. Then switching over to if the playoffs started today, we now know that the Kansas City Chiefs have clinched the number one seed in the AFC. So it will run through Kansas City if you want to go to the Super Bowl. At number 2, the Bills would take on the number 7 seed Broncos. The number 3 seed Ravens would take on the number 6 seed Chargers. The number 4 seed Texans would take on the number 5 seed Pittsburgh Steelers. In the NFC, the Lions holding on tight to that number 1 seed. The number 2 seed, or another team holding on tight to a seed, is the Eagles. They're the number 2 seed. They would take on the Commanders at the playoff start of the day. The Rams would host the Green Bay Packers, the 3 and the 6 matchup. And in the 4 and 5 matchup, we would see the Falcons take on the Vikings. Now, all of these matchups have happened so far this year in the NFC. So that would make it a very interesting thing. Now, let's head over to the NFL Pick'ems before we give our predictions for tonight and the rest of the week. So your boys won 47-93. I'm trying to hold on tight and keep it under 100. I got 2 weeks to try to have great back-to-back weeks to keep it under 100. But 12-4 last week, 11-5 this week. Once again, hot at the wrong time when I needed to win games to get in that pick'em playoff, but it is what it is. But shout out to myself. Very proud of myself. Now, let's talk about the pick'em playoff league. Right now, we saw Russ lose to Joey in a 13-10. Cody beating Katie 12-4. So this week in the playoffs, Jay will take on Joey for right to get into the championship, and James will take on Cody. It's going to be a very interesting week to see who moves on. In tonight's matchup, I've got the Seattle Seahawks winning this one 26-17 over Chicago. Chicago just looks bad right now. They're a dumpster fire, unfortunately. And they've got to figure out ways to better this team. They've got to get a culture change. That's going to be the biggest thing for Chicago. Can they fix the culture there? Get everything back to where they needed to be. And then on top of that, protect Caleb. Get Caleb to get the ball, get rid of the ball. So there's a lot of elements that go into it. And now for the rest of the week, as you see right now, your boys are already 2-0 after yesterday's wins for Kansas City and the Ravens. We have the Seahawks, the Bengals, the Bills, the Eagles, the Chargers, the Rams, the Colts, Jaguars, Dolphins, Panthers, Raiders, Packers, Commanders, and Lions. Those are my picks for week 17. All right, everybody, that's it. Episode 154 in the books here, 101, airing on the amazing Bowie Television as well as the Legacy Makers Sports Network. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all have had a very Merry Christmas, happy holidays. I hope everybody is, got everything they wanted for Christmas. I hope that everybody's families are doing extremely well out there. Most importantly, I really just want to see everybody happy. So I hope everybody's happy. Now, with that being said, go out there, enjoy some football. This weekend, we got 2 more regular season weeks before we head into the playoffs, and then everything changes from there. You're one and you're done. So we'll see how it all goes. I'm your man, Darrell Owens. This has been another episode of 101 here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network and airing on the amazing Bowie Television. We will see you all next week for our Week 18 Power Rankings. Until then, have a good one.
Welcome to the 101. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof.